The first thing I like doing is creating a brine, and I may have shared this with you all before. I have about a cup of warm water in my bowl here. I'm going to start with warm water because we got to put salt. So I'm using sea salt, brown sugar, and that's Demerara brown sugar. And the warm water will help to dissolve that salt and sugar. And it's equal parts salt and sugar, if you're wondering. A nice dose of fresh ground black pepper goes in there. I've got fresh thyme from my garden. Just going to give that a rip. Toss that in there. Now I'm going to use my whisk and give that a good mix. And I'm sort of smashing the thyme as well too, because I want that to release all those flavors. I've also got some fresh parsley out of the garden. I'm going to need some garlic, so I've got 3 cloves of garlic. I'm just smashing with my knife, like so. I want it a little spicy, so I've got 2 of these peppers out of the garden as well. That is totally optional. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. And we're just going to give everything a good little crush, like so. Give that a mix, like so. We're going to replicate the flavors of a good jerk, which in my humble opinion tastes quite a bit like bay leaf. So we're going to go in with 2 bay leaves. And speaking about jerk, I've got some allspice. So I'm just going to grab about 6 to 8 grains of that allspice. Pimento berries, you may also call it. Give that another little mix. You notice how easy that was. Now I'm going to top it with cold water. Just enough to cover the pork chops. And speaking about pork chops, just move this over for a second. I've got my pork chops in the back here. Yeah, I don't have much of a voice. I've been sick for the past little while. So if my voice sounds strange, that is why. I like a rib chop. So there's a rib here. There's quite a bit of fat. And that's going to be nice on the grill, on that smoker outside. I will be using my Traeger today. You can use any grill you want. If you wanted to put this in the oven, you can also do that. And what the brine does is not only adds flavor to the pork chops. Excuse me. What it also does is, and I want to make sure everything is tucked down there, it helps to maintain moisture in the meat so it doesn't dry up once you start grilling it. These pork chops are really thin. They're about 3/4 of an inch, I would say. So they don't need to brine for long. If they were thicker, and if you have those a massive budget and you can get those nice thick pork chops, go ahead, rock that. But I would brine it for longer, maybe an hour, 2 hours. What I'm gonna do now is drain all of this. We're gonna get rid of all this herbs and stuff like that. It's done its job, and we're gonna get to seasoning it now. We've already infused it with a lot of flavor there, but I want more flavor. Yeah, it's back in the same bowl where we sort of brined it in, but I wanted to show you guys something. Now, if a few of the thyme leaves and all that got in there, that's no problem. What I wanted to impress on you guys is there's sort of a cap fat on the perimeter, the outside here. I went and I made cuts. That's going to help. It's going to work two things for us. It's going to allow for even grilling, because if you don't do that, it's going to belly up once the heat hits it. Plus, that's going to allow for the fat to render out. So any that you have this piece of fat on, please go ahead and give it that little cut there with a knife. Just going to shove that over. A great opportunity to use the stuff from the store. And I know people are going to say, well, Chris, you're a chef. You're representing the Caribbean. Why don't you show people how to make jerk seasoning? And to them, I will say, you got barbecue sauce in your fridge. You've got ketchup in your fridge. You've got mayonnaise in your fridge. All of which you didn't make, but you come in here anyhow. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to CaribbeanPot.com, I have recipes on making your own jerk marinade. This is my favorite one from the store. I love supporting Caribbean, what I say, and it's lazy man times. We've got 2 tablespoons of that, and I want a couple tablespoons. Wow, we milking it today, boys. Squeak, squeak. Anyhow, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We're gonna give that a really good mix. And again, we'll need some patience because I need this to marinate now. We're just going to pour this all over here. And this one is very spicy. The other thing I must mention, when handling the pork chops in the brine, remember, we use some spicy pepper in there. Please be mindful of that. Wear gloves, wash your hands immediately after with soap and water. And speaking of wear gloves, you can choose to wear gloves at this point. I'm going in with my hands and I'm going to give everything a good mix. I want all those pork chops to be covered with that jerk marinade, you know, and we're going to give him a little kissy kiss like so. Yeah, man, we're just doing it nice and rustic. Yeah, and here's where the other sense of patience comes in. We want this to marinate for at least an hour for all that jerk marinade to go in there. And this jerk marinade, as I said, is very spicy. It is straight out of a jar, something I got at the grocery store, but I'm quite happy with. If you want to make your own, head over to youtube.com/CaribbeanPot or CaribbeanPot.com, and I have recipes on there. Cling wrap in the fridge, let it marinate. One may argue that this step that I'm about to do is not necessary, but you know, I'm on big, I'm on bold. When I'm going deep. So if you recall, a while back we did that jerk dry rub, only on one side. I'm not going on both sides. I ain't trying to overdo it. I ain't trying to petrify anybody with the heat and all kind of thing like that, but that dry rub is going on there now. It's on my pellet smoker there, that Traeger. I've got it set to 260 degrees. These are really thin pork chops, they're not massive. So we're gonna keep that in mind as we grill these off. A couple things. We want to hit it about 145 to 150. If you want to go as high as 160, they will dry out on you. And I am burning mesquite pellets, and the only reason why I'm going with mesquite and not something fruity like a cherry or apple or anything like that is because a good jerk is supposed to have that deep, rich flavor of pimento wood, which can be very strong. So I'm trying to replicate that because I am based in Canada. I'm not based in Jamaica, where, you know, pimento wood is easily available. It's been about 45 minutes now. Now keep in mind, we spoke about the internal temperature. If you want to use a probe, a thermometer, you can do that. 45 minutes, perfect for me. I can go by what I'm looking at there. What I'm going to do now, and this is totally optional, is, yeah, these are really thin pork chops. I must mention that again. I am going to crank up my heat to about 300, and I'm going to hit them with my favorite barbecue sauce. And I want something with a bit of apple in there, a little bit of fruit, just because I want a little bit of sweetness, because there's a lot of heat in there from being a jerk marinade. So I want to sort of balance the flavors with the heat and the sweet.
Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me. Email address down here. I'm really trying to tell people the email address. Them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pot. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irene?
15 minutes later, and you've got juicy, smoked jerk pork chops for you and your family to enjoy. Chris here, CaribbeanPod.com. Always a pleasure having you guys here in the kitchen with me. I'm going to pull them off
I'm gonna stick them on my plate. I'm gonna tent it with some foil, and I'm gonna let it sit there for about 5 minutes before let those juices redistribute all over. Remember, they're very thin pork chops, so I didn't want to overcook them. And remember, we brined it and we added all that flavor in there, so we tried not to overcook it and kill all that good work that we did. Always a pleasure having you guys here in the kitchen with me. I don't know if I can tighten up any more, but there we go.